There are a lot of mechanics that Anthem doesn't make abundantly clear. For instance, combos are a damage-dealing mechanic that's essential in combat, but the game only lightly touches on their execution and importance, and there are several tidbits like this that are likely to go right over your head. To help you transform into the best freelancer you can be, we've highlighted several tips that'll enhance your abilities both in and out of combat. We've also included further insight and clarification on ancillary aspects of the game you might have questions about. So, let's get on to it. When you examine special abilities, you'll notice that some are called primers, like the Ranger's Ice Grenade or Interceptor's Venom Spray, while others are labeled as detonators, like Colossus's Siege Artillery or Storm's Lightning Strike. If an enemy has been hit by a primer, hitting them with a detonator will cause them to detonate, causing a special damage effect to trigger. This sequence of damage dealing is what Anthem calls combos. Primers and detonators can be identified by small icons in the UI. Primers are designated by a semi-filled circle, and detonators are marked with a 4-pointed star. Each Javelin has a different effect that activates upon successfully detonating a combo. Ranger's critical target simply inflicts the largest amount of damage to detonated enemies. Colossus's Explosion causes all detonations to explode and damage nearby enemies. Storm's Spread makes all detonations explode and spread an elemental effect to nearby enemies, and Interceptor's Aura makes it so detonating an enemy causes an elemental effect to be imbued into the Javelin, which can be inflicted onto nearby enemies through proximity and melee attacks. As a final note, Javelins can trigger combos with melee attacks as well. Colossus, Storm, and Interceptor have detonator melee attacks, while Ranger has a primer melee attack. Before you embark on a mission with your Javelin, make sure you have both a primer and a detonator in your loadout. For example, you might want to choose an Ice Elemental primer and then choose a Fire Elemental detonator as your secondary. There aren't a lot of ways for your team to communicate when they've set up a combo, so packing your own primers and detonators can ensure you net that extra damage as a group. In addition, having both primer and detonator weapons in your loadout allows you to access combos during solo play. This seems like a given, but don't forget to dodge. With your Javelin's flight capabilities, you might be fooled into thinking you're speedy enough to avoid incoming attacks. But when an enemy starts using homing attacks, a speedy dodge will get you out of trouble way more easily. You can dodge up to 3 times with one button press by holding down dodge and a direction. It's much quicker than flying around the battlefield to avoid said homing attacks. Many players mistake the Colossus for a tank and choose it early on, but the real tank is the Interceptor. The Interceptor's ultimate enables a period of invulnerability that can be used for attacking or simply buying time to revive a downed team member. If you're looking to protect your team, the speedy maneuvers and abilities of the Interceptor are a must. If you're switching over to a Colossus, take note that it uses shields differently compared to other Javelins. In fact, it can't even perform a traditional dodge. Instead, using the dodge button as the Colossus raises a physical shield with its own health meter, which absorbs all incoming damage. And it can even be used to melee or ram into enemies. The Colossus's shield is useful in a variety of offensive and defensive situations, so don't hesitate to make use of it to support your squad. Titans have several weak points that shift through the battle: their forearms, back, and chest. You'll notice each of these areas will glow yellow and look open when they're exposed. These areas will only open when the Titan is attacking, so it's usually a good idea to have the team spread out. Anyone who isn't the target of the attack laying down damage as the targeted teammate distracts the Titan. Make sure to focus all your fire during these moments, and Titan fights should go a lot more smoothly.
This is more scar activity than I've seen in a long time.
You probably know you can cool off underwater or by flying through waterfalls. but you can also delay overheating by flying close to shallow water sources and by nosediving. This is a handy way to extend your flight time. If you'd rather go at it alone, you can launch solo missions through the privacy menu at Mission Launch. This comes highly recommended for players who prefer experiencing the story, as playing with others opens up the possibility of getting left behind and missing certain sections, due to the game's insistence on teleporting you to your party if you can't keep up. If you're playing with friends, it's a good idea to turn subtitles on, just in case someone is talking while you're in a cutscene or trying to hear dialogue. It makes things much easier to follow, keeping you focused on the drama while still being able to communicate with friends. In your time spent flying around the world and exploring Fort Tarsis, you slowly discover more about Anthem's world and characters. However, the game actually has far more storytelling than it lets on. Peruse your email, for instance, to find detailed tidbits that further flesh out the world, while adding a welcoming sense of realism to its inhabitants. If you're a fan of digging deep into lore, check your codex often, especially after interacting with objects and NPCs in Fort Tarsis or discovering landmarks during free play. And that's all the tips we've got for you. But were there any essential ones you know of that we didn't highlight here? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to check back in the coming days for more Anthem guides. Thanks for watching, everybody.